All. Good morning, Dr. Chandra sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Sir, around 26 participants is already attended. So I think we will start in time. That's better. So slowly other participants will also join. Okay. Once again, good morning, all participants. Now I will request Dr. Chandra sir, please proceed for your talk. So this floor is yours. So please, sir, you may start.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let me share my screen first.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please.
My screen is visible?
Yes, sir. Visible. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Visible.
So, good morning, all. Today, we will talk about one very recent and interesting model, that is the deep generative model. And then at the end, we will see that how we can use this deep generative models for the healthcare system. The main benefit of these generative models are that with the help of them we can generate new data, right? So as in the case of the COVID-19, we were having the pneumonia data set, if I am talking about the X-ray based images. But COVID-19 cases, the samples was very less. So all over the world, people were trying to use different deep learning methods in that, but at the end they stuck that the data sample is very low. So we also try this deep generative model so that we can develop some data similar to the other COVID-19 cases samples. So I will talk about that as a case study at the end. So let's talk about this generative model. Then what are the types, and in GAN, actually it is very famous nowadays. So what is the actually use of generating new data, right? So far we have talked about the different type of the machine learning technique, in that your supervised learning is there, unsupervised learning is there, reinforcement learning is there. So in case of supervised learning or deep learning, I will say, my motive is that I give my input as an image, let's say, and then it automatically extract the pattern out of it. And based on that pattern, it classify if it is subject A, subject B, or some classes, class A, class B. But these generative models, they not only extract the patterns within the data, but they goes one step ahead and they try to learn. Sorry. They try to learn the underlying distribution of the data, right? So that new data can be developed. And it is a kind of subset of the deep learning. It uses the concept of deep learning in one way. And it is also come under the unsupervised learning. We will discuss why. So let me start with some images again. So can you tell me which phase from these is or are the fake one? Any wild guess? Or they are the real human face? Yes, any volunteer?
Like, okay, like now. So the second female image,
It is fake one.
I think so it is fake.
Okay. Any other?
Do you promise that
So this first is also fake. Second one is also fake. All are the fake images in this. Right. So in today's world, with the deep learning models and advanced machine learning models, we are able to generate real like faces, right? And all these are artificial faces. No one exists similar to these faces in world. And if you see them closely, then you will realize that even the shading, even the variance, and it is of very high dimension. So now we have the generative models that can develop such fake images, fake videos, right? So yesterday we talked about the supervised learning and unsupervised learning. So this come under the supervised learning only, this generative models. So in supervised learning, we have the data sample X and Y, where X is my input and Y is my label. And then we have some goal to learn a function that can map from, for every X, there is a Y, right? So we have the different methods. Yesterday we talked about that classification, regression, object detection, image captioning. All these are under the supervised learning. In case of unsupervised, I am having the data with me and there is no labeled data with me, right? Unsupervised learning was not that much explored. If I talk specifically with respect to the machine learning field, because we are good with the supervised learning. But the issue with the supervised learning is that I have to I have to label each data individually. Right, so Amazon has its own mtrunk where the researcher like us, they can upload our hundreds of GB data over there, and they distribute that work to all over the world so that people can do that manual work. In that they need to identify this image is of cat or not, so labeling yes or no and likewise. Right, so it is a time consuming and it take a lot of time. Right, but it has a lot of application, that's why it is very popular. But in real time, we either don't have the data, or if we have the data, there is no labeling of that data is available. So now people are also searching to explore the new fields in the unsupervised learning. So I would say that it's an open research area for the researcher. Right, so in this unsupervised learning, we try to learn some hidden structure, some inherent parameters of the data. Right, so we talk about that we can go with the clustering in that, dimensional reduction, density estimation. All these are the types of the unsupervised learning. So the general objective of the unsupervised learning is inferring a function to describe hidden structure from the unlabeled data. So as I told you that we can use the density estimation or continuous probability for the unsupervised learning. Yesterday we talked about the clustering based methods. We can also use the feature learning using unsupervised feature that can act as a pre-processing step for the supervised learning. We can use this unsupervised learning for the dimension reduction. PC is the example of it, principal component analysis, right? So as I was talking about why we use supervised learning, to estimate the probability density function of a random variable x given a bunch of the observation. It means we try to find a density function, probability density function, right? Similar to, let's say, your Gaussian function. So that I have two Gaussian functions. So one Gaussian function, the mean value is there, it may act as a centroid as well. Then we can use the clustering for grouping the similar objects together in one particular cluster. We can use it for the feature learning, a transformation of the raw data input to representation that can be exploited in the machine learning task, or dimension reduction techniques. So when we train our system, at that time, what happened, based on the outcome, we have to take some steps. So if my training error is very, very high, then I should go with a bigger module, right? Let's say earlier I was having 4 hidden layers only. Now I should try more than that. If my training error is more, or if earlier I have trained my system for 50 epochs only, or 50 iteration. Now let's try for a higher iteration, right? Or you can develop a new model architecture, because biasness is high over here. If that's okay, and my training as well as my validation error, some researcher called it as a development error also, because validation is carried out at the programmer side only. So if my training or the development error is high, then I should look into the data. I should gather more data. I should apply some more regularization method on it, right? Or I can again use the new model architecture, because the main reason of training and validation high error is high variance. Or if my training error is okay, but my development error or the validation error is very high, then it means that the train and test data mismatch. This generally happen when my data is low in size or small in size, sorry, right? So data, we need to go with some data synthesis in that. Or again, I can develop my own new model architecture. And if your test error is high, then we need more validation data in that, because it go with the overfitting. If everything is correct, then okay, your model is good to go. So this deviation error high, right, or this validation error, whenever it is high, we have to synthesize the data. We have to make more data, right, similar to your test data. So generative models are used for this purpose. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Audible.
Fine. So generative model, as I was talking about. So what did they do? They take the input training sample from some distribution and learn a model that represent that distribution. So it means if I am having a data set of 100 people, let's say, then I try to learn a function. I called it as or I try to generate a density estimation function so that it can fit all the 100 samples, right? So that for a given data, we can generate the new sample with respect to that density function. So that if I'm generating a new function, it should lie within that parabolic nature, or sorry, Gaussian nature of the data, whatever is the nature of the data. Right. So generative models, what they did, I am having my training data. So I called that probabilistic density function as P data. And then I am having, I develop a new sample and we called it as a P model. And we try to make this P model similar to your P data. Means whatever we generated randomly, right? It should be similar to my existing data. So there are various ways. One is the density estimation method. So in density estimation method, we can either go with the explicit density estimation or implicit density estimation. Explicit means we explicitly define the P model and try to follow it. While implicit in that we can use the sample from the P model without explicitly defining how it is working. Right, so it generate a new sample from the probabilistic distribution only. So let's say this is my data set. So I try to generate a new sample based on the probability density function. Right, so as you can see over here as well that from the real data distribution, if this is my probability density function or probability distribution, then when I am generating a new sample, it should follow this similar distribution. Recently in 2017, this paper was published. So it says that we can use this probability distribution for generating the new data set. The another reason why we use this generative model is that because most of the time when because my supervised learning models, it work with the data set. So my data set is what kind of nature of my data set is depend on that my output is there. So may be possible that my data set is homogeneous. Let's say I want to make a program or model for face recognition. So it may be biased toward a particular gender only, or a particular skin color or particular pose, right? So it may not be applicable to all the samples. So what we need, we want to identify some hidden pattern out of this data so that it can work for the diverse skin color, pose, and the different lighting condition. Now the question is how we can use this latent distribution to create the fair representation of the data, right? Because in the data, the another problem is that outlier are there, but these outliers are not that frequent, right? If I want to make a data set for the automated car, then 95% of the my driving data should be lie in these three criteria only, that it can be of a highway, straight road, or sunny. But some cases are also there exist, so that it should work for them. For example, this edges in the road, some harsh weather, or pedestrian cases. So I should be able to generate this data if it is not there, so that I can make it make a generalized model, right? Using generative model, we can generate some realistic sample of the artwork, right? So nowadays people are also trying to develop the artwork. If the painter who draw this Mona Lisa drive painting, right? So if that particular person was alive today, then what are the other similar painting he can draw? So using this generative model, we can do that as well in today's world. what it does, it try to learn the useful feature for the classification, for the insight parameters within that model, right? So for medical imaging or the physical. So we can also use this for the medical field where we are having very less amount of the data. It can be used for the modeling physical world for simulation and planning, right? Because in case of reinforcement learning, we need to work with the simulations model and the for the planning purpose. So generative model, this is a new machine learning model that got popular in recent years only. Earlier, there were different researcher who was working on it, but after again, it came into the focus. So there are different ways of it, explicitly density-based measures, implicit density. So GAN is very popular in that, in all these. We have we talked about yesterday also that in unsupervised learning, we have to take care of this latent variable, right? So these latent variables are those features which you can't directly observe. They can only be observed through some other features or using some mathematical model, right? So latent variable is a mathematical model that aim to explore observable variable in term of the latent variable. Yesterday we talked about that there are some parameters in the deep learning, right? For example, I am using this number of the rooms, size of the room, zip code, and then these are the latent variables that I can infer from the uh, directly observable variables, right? So there is very famous Pluto's allegory of the cave, or it is also known by the name of myth of the cave. So it give you the definition of latent variable. It says that the Plato gave his theory that there are some person who are within this cave from childhood, right? And this cave is under the earth, right? So there is no light, and they the setup is like that these prisoner, they are resting on a wall, right? And behind this wall there is a fire. So they are unaware of the environment around them. What they see is the darkness all around them. Some person sometime carries some uh, items with them. For example, the statue or the pops of these bird and all like that. So they learn that, okay, beside in this darkness, these are some objects and they are calling it by different names. So for them, they are the realities. These features are the reality for them, right? These shadow. So one day what happened, one person somehow free himself, and he came to the another side of the wall over here, and then he realized that whatever he was assuming about the word is all fake. Right? Earlier when he saw his own shadow, he says he was thinking that this is the real person. But with time he realized that this is fake. So he also came out of this cave, and then he saw that, oh, there is sunlight and the shadow is just a reflection of the actual objects. The shadow are not the real objects, right? They are not the true factors. So he came back again, and then he tried to explain the other fellow members. Right? He realized that, okay, I got the truth now, so I should also share this truth with my friends. But because they never realize the truth. So they conclude themselves that this person is mad, and they make this rule that now onwards, if anybody leave this particular place, they will kill him. This happens with the persons generally whenever they give some new uh, thought, right? So what the takeaway for us in this is that what we are assuming is as a feature may be possible that is not the actual representation of that object, right? So the question was, can we learn the actual explanatory factors, or these factors are known as the latent variables from only observed data, right? So using this concept, it says that we need to identify some latent features so that they can represent the actual object. Maybe possible the way we are viewing this world all around us through our eyes, it's not the actual representation, right? As a mathematician, I can say that it's nothing but it's a combination of the or probability density function, right? So these discriminative models, they so my existing discriminative model, what they did, they try to classify the object based on the probability estimation, for example, your SVM, KNN, ResNet, Inception. While my this generative model, it explicitly model the distribution of each class by looking at the joint parameter probability between the input and the class label. And then we try to understand the distribution form from which that data is obtained to perform that particular task. Right. So this generative model, in that the human also think like that on way only, because we it's not like that we always have we have seen a particular example all the time, right? If somebody says that okay, there is a blue car on the road, so we automatically imagine so that is this power we have, this generative modeling is already within the human. So now let's talk about how we can do this as a programmer, as a machine learning scientist, right? So we can use this latent, there are different latent variable models, because at the end what we need to identify this inherent parameter that we call the latent variable. So autoencoder can be used, then variation in the autoencoder by the name of the variational autoencoders. And recently this GAN, generative adversarial network, was developed for the same. So autoencoder, what it says that it's a kind of unsupervised learning, and in that we use the concept of encoding, right? And auto means automatically it is encoding something. So typically autoencoder takes the data such as your image or text, or even your signal in form of your music. So nowadays you can generate music also using this GAN technique. So auto encoder takes your image as input, and it produces the same as the output using some series of convolution and up convolution methods in it. So autoencoder try to learn the representation from the set for dimensionality reduction. So we use the autoencoder. In case of autoencoder, we are having these three things. Autoencoding is there, then bottlenecking is there, and then decoder we use. So in case of autoencoder, what it does, we take a sample and we try to generate the same sample by using some methods, by using some auto encoding decoding methods. right? So the idea is that a good representation should keep the information well, right? So in this, your human, they are also good with the visualization. As I told you that if somebody told you that there is a person who is tall, fair, bulky, with some specification, Punjabi, likewise. So you can imagine that particular person in your head as per your background, right? So what we do in case of auto encoding from this actual image, we try to find the features, right? For example, earlier we used to find the feature with respect to the ear, nose, and likewise. But there are some other parameters as well. For example, smile, skin tone, gender, right? Beards. So these may be some latent variables, hidden variables from that data set. So unsupervised learning tries to learn a lower dimension feature from the unlabeled training data. In that, what we do, we have our data with ourselves. So this is a MNIST data example. In that, we have taken the sample from there. And then from this sample, we try to generate a latent variable, Z representation is the latent representation of that. So your encoder learn to map from the data X to a lower dimension latent spaces. So from the actual sample, we try to find try to generate the original data, right, from here to here. So now the question is how we can learn this latent space, this Z, which is very small as compared to Z. And from this Z, we are again converting or trying to generate the original data. So decoder learn mapping back from the latent Z to the observation that is your X hat. So autoencoder, what it does, it encode the input itself, right? So then it try to map. So why it is supervised? Because there is no labeling. Whatever is the data you give me, I try to generate the similar data, irrespective of whether it is a car, tree, dog, 2, 3, or other, whatever is the labeling in that. So now the question is how I will find whether developed